Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome to Mother the Podcast. I've been gone for a little while now. It's not your typical life talk. Today is my birthday. If you are new here and haven't seen any of the other episodes, no worries. Pop over and view them if you feel led. I want to thank everyone for being here. Those who are returning, thank you and welcome back. I want to kind of get into my own personal new year that's starting today. I'm gonna do all this as I'm sketching something for Instagram for my art page or my art channel. I am going through, as a lot of people know now, a lot of life changes, especially on the front of my marital situation, the way that my image and everything has changed, how I view myself, how I choose to live, how I'm choosing happiness over survival, how living in survival mode has changed my body, my subconscious thoughts, those sort of things. Like, I'm not really going to get too deep into those specific things. We're going to talk about more of those things on other episodes, but I made a couple of posts yesterday and this morning for those people who follow me on my other social media. And if you don't, then I'll leave a description, or I'll leave a link in the description, so that you can come on over, see what's going on over there. Life has been different. It's not easy, but I feel my soul feels free. I'm not financially free yet, mark my words. That yet is very strong, but I have myself in a space where I am choosing to stand up for myself. I've kept so many secrets and covered so many people to the point of betrayal to my inner child, and my inner child has been begging me to stand in agreement with her or to fight for her. And let's be clear, that's different than defending yourself or proving something to others, because I have nothing to defend and I will not be proving anything to anyone. If I must prove something, I will prove it to myself. But the reality of my situation is I sat and listened to the interview of Danae Jackson, and it moved me in such a way. Not the particular interview, but the way that many women responded to the interview. I was floored. Excuse me. They were calling this woman weird and crazy and all of these different things, and I was triggered to the point where I had to let people know that I am Danae Jackson. Like, the marriage that I've been in the last 15 years, the relationship that I've been in the last 17 has been insanely toxic, has been unfulfilling to say the least. And this is not about bashing anyone. This is not about putting blame on anyone else. I am recognizing my part in this. I don't need to let anybody know what their part is, because they know they don't need that from me. And to be honest, in many of the situations and the people that I've let go, they're not even ready to hear that or heal that. And you can only do what you can only move where people will allow you to. I sat and I watched that young woman make jokes and laugh and that's a coping mechanism. When we're in the middle of processing something, where we're like, I'm sure she feels anger, and I'm sure she feels these things, and I'm sure they're mainly directed at herself, because especially like she had sense enough to get out much sooner than I did. 17 years long I was in my situation. And when I ask for something, when I put something out into the universe, it happens. It always comes back. It's not always pretty. It doesn't always look like what you expect it to look like. But it does. Like, please bear with me. I'm getting somewhere here. I'm going somewhere with this. I asked to be freed from the toxicity. I said my soul couldn't take any more. And when his assignment came through, it came with a move. It came with a relocation. But we had just bought a house. And I decided I'm going to stay behind, because I just didn't want to follow anymore. I just didn't want to carry myself to a new place, in a new home, in a new situation, and create new disastrous memories. My soul was just tired of it. So I asked to be freed. And it came as a relocation. And when I tell you, immediately upon relocating, immediately upon the move and leaving, the same thing, the same issues started. To be honest, like, it almost felt like they were already in motion before he had left. Now, I'm not going to call names. I'm not going to talk about who did what. There will be story times. There will be things that I talk about that I've experienced, and that will just be what it is. But rather than feeling sad in these moments, rather than feeling like, oh, it's happening again, or oh, why me, or oh, I had gone through this for so many years. And when I tell you, there wasn't a single year, not a single year, that there wasn't something insanely toxic. I've even had women argue with me back and forth, or tell me that I needed to let him go. Like, the reality of my situation is, if I could control anything that he was doing, then it would have never happened. None of the cheating or any of the other stuff would have happened. This is not a me thing. This is a you thing. It's like, but that's not even really what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the power of manifestation for women in particular is super effortless. It's putting an intention out and waiting for it to show up. And when I tell you, Like right now, like things aren't ideal. Financially, I definitely could use a bump, but I've never felt more free. You can almost hear the break in my voice when I said that. I've never felt more free. Why is that, you say? I don't have to walk on eggshells. I don't have to constantly wait for the other shoe to drop. I don't have to feel like I have to go above and beyond to satisfy or pacify someone who will never be satisfied or pacified by anything that I do. I can just be me. I can be with my children. I can be loved unconditionally. I can converse with my friends. I can do all of these things that make me happy, and they don't feel like a chore. You know, they don't feel like this is what you're supposed to be doing, despite the fact that you just want to ball up in a knot and disappear into the bed. Like, and this is what a lot of the years have felt like for me. And I kept this secret. I kept this. I get in people's face and I smile and I make jokes, and everyone thinks that I'm so funny and I'm this and I'm that, and then I'm on the inside I'm bleeding. On the inside I'm bleeding. Do you know what that feels like? I'm sure many of you do. But I'm having a call to action right now for anyone who resonates with Danae Jackson or my story or any of those things, any of the details. Being in a situation where you feel trapped by it's recognizing that it's your own entrapment now, like understanding that you didn't love yourself. There's no way that you love yourself, allowing these people to do this to you, and they're calling you crazy, and they're telling you don't know what you're talking about, and they're saying, oh, you're insecure, and all of these other things. If you've been in that situation, write about it, talk about it, record yourself saying however you felt in particular moments. This is a point of healing, because I made it a point to explain that we need fellowship as women. They talk about the fellowship of man all the time, but as women, we need fellowship and to be a mirror for one another. To be a mirror for one another, to say, you know, like when they talk about the whole Me Too movement or whatever, people can turn things into disasters quickly. Like feminism, Me Too, and all the other stuff. They turn it, they fetishize it, they put it on a pedestal, and then it becomes a statue or some sort of thing that they worship. And that's when it becomes perverted. And that's when everybody starts looking at it like, why? But let's not do that. Let's keep this thing ugly. It doesn't have to be refined. Let's keep this thing raw. Let's not put lipstick on a pig. Let's ugly cry and snot and snort and growl and whatever it is. All those nasty things that they say women don't do. This is called Mother, the podcast, for a reason, because I'm trying to get I'm trying to get us all to emote in the rawest, most tangible ways. Because when we can dive into these feelings and when we're not hiding from them, I was hiding from this. I tucked it away. I convinced myself that it was embarrassing to me. But what did I do? Aside from deciding to love someone, what did I do? What did I do aside from deciding to be there for someone? Where was my fault in this? The fault was not giving that thing to myself. So while I was loving fiercely on my husband and my marriage, I forgot to love me. I got swallowed up and I got absorbed in it. And it's okay to be immersed in the feeling of love that you have for somebody else, but equal and opposite, right? We live in polarity, but we live by duality. And the reality of that statement is where there's black, there is white. Where there's up, there is down. Where there's left, there is right. And so looking at it in a sense of that, we look at those things as balance. When you look at a seesaw at a park, if I won't even say the person, if my marriage was on one side of the seesaw and I was on the other, if I continued to pour love into the marriage on that side, right? And there was no reciprocal energy being poured into me, then my feet never touched the ground. And if my feet aren't touching the ground, then I can't be grounded. And if I can't be grounded, then I'm not living in reality. Then I'm telling myself some very unrealistic things. Things that sound like you're just not trying hard enough. Well, maybe you're not worthy of this. Maybe if you would just do more of this. Maybe it's just that. Maybe you're just not lovable. Maybe you're just not. None of that is real. None of that is true. None of that exists. There is somebody for everybody. There's love out there for everybody. And I'm not talking about even in a romantic sense. I'm talking about just in general. The reality of the situation is there was nothing that I could have done, nothing that I could have done differently to make this outcome, well, the outcome of the marriage any different. It was doomed from the start. I had gone into the situation all wrong. And so the person on the opposite side saw how to treat me, and that treatment of me was just how I was treating myself. I'm not loving myself. Why should anybody else love me? It makes no sense. How can I expect someone to do what I'm not even doing for myself? And why would they leave if I'm giving all my love, all my acceptance? I'm accepting every foul thing with grace. I'm keeping the secret. No reputations are damaged. I'm watching everybody look at me with pity. and telling myself it's all worth it because this is this marriage that I'm holding on to, and I got to pour love into it, and I got to keep, how do I fix it? I just keep pouring love into it and pouring love into it and pouring love into it. At some point, you're well. Now, keep in mind, we are limitless beings. So the water will be restored should you decide to pay attention to it. But if you're not keeping an eye on the water supply, you will drain yourself. And that's what I had done. I didn't look like myself anymore. I still don't look like me fully. I take that back. I look like me, but I look like a completely different me, from a different point of wisdom, from an understanding, I am loving on myself for the first time in years. Over a decade. And today is my birthday. Today is my birthday. Today is my year of birth. And I'm not where I ultimately desire to be, but I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I'm right where I'm supposed to be. This particular message is going to be all over the place, and I knew that coming into this. I didn't write anything down. I didn't contemplate what I was going to say. In one of the posts, I said 17 years of avoidance, escapism, and denial. Right? My lack of boundaries and lack of self-love kept me in that situation. And I realized in that moment, as she was sharing, and people were ridiculing her. And I mean, obviously, she's devout Christian, and my views are not, we don't share the same values. Not to the extent that's another topic for another day. I've seen the posts where she's, quoting the scripture and things like that, and people are accusing her of, going overboard and this, that, and the third. I mean, she is quoting accurately the scriptures, and this is the Bible that everybody, like I said, another topic for another day. But she was brave enough to get out there and tell her story. And her husband is very well known, obviously. And he still gets out there and tells men how they shouldn't do this and shouldn't do that, and all of these things that he couldn't bring himself to follow. But I digress. That's none of my business. But when she got out there and she told her story, I started looking at myself like, why aren't you? Covering a person or a situation, or hiding a situation, can sometimes feel like betrayal to yourself. I have to make sure that I'm honoring my inner child. I was bruised. I was hurt. It didn't feel good. I didn't like it. And I just swallowed it and held on to it. I could write it in journals. But I also had to sit side by side with the people who praised this person as something that this person was not. Praise this person for doing all of these things that this person was not doing. And feeling myself become bitter. And before I let this change me, I will speak on it. The reality of the situation was, you get to a point where you're surrounded by a bunch of mutual friends and things like that, and they have this narrative. They understand this thing in this way. And you don't know how to navigate the situation because you're tired of celebrating something or someone that hurts you. And so you close yourself off. You become introverted. You don't want to be around people. You don't want to show how you're truly feeling, because people do this weird thing. Like, if you go to talk about what you're feeling, or you go to talk about why you're feeling it, if they don't understand, or they don't see that person in that way, they will start to look at you like you're trying to damage the person's reputation, or you're bitter, or you're just angry, or you're a hater, or all these other things. And can you imagine how hurtful that is, to have to deal with all of those things within the situation, and anyone that you turn to outside of the situation is looking at you like, why are you so miserable? Well, I'll tell you why. And then they turn around and go, well, I don't understand why you want to put it all on him. But what are you doing? It's just that, you know what? That's right. It's a valid question. What am I doing? What was I doing? Nothing. Everything I was doing for the other person. Right? And then if you explain that to the person, and they go, I didn't ask you to do that. And they're absolutely right. They didn't ask you to do that. But had you done anything else, it would be like hellfire. I got completely off topic. Anyway, what I'm saying is, we have to be seen as women. We have to be seen healing. We have to be seen crying. We have to be seen living. We have to be seen winning. We have to be seen growing something. We have to be seen building something. We have to be seen raw. We have to be seen completely put together. We have to be seen in all of these different aspects. We have to be our spiritual practices, our hygiene practices, our health practices. All of these things have to be seen. We have to be a witness to one another in order for us to thrive and come together. And it triggered me that this young woman was attacked in the way that she was. I am Danae Jackson. I don't want anybody to be, if anybody is in this situation, I'm not going to tell you what you should do, right? Because the reality of the situation is everybody's situation is different. And this looks different to everybody. But I will say this. Speak up. It doesn't have to be on a platform. Let your family know if they're trustworthy. Speak to a counselor or a therapist. Speak to God. Do all three. If you have a platform, share on your platform. Because there's someone out there who needs to hear it, who needs to know. There is someone out there who needs to know. There may be somebody close to you who needs to hear it, who needs to know that they're not alone, who needs to know that they're not the only ones going through this. And that's what it triggered in me. We are constantly in judgment and criticism of one another as women. We need to stand together. That is my wish. And it is my birthday. I've said that several times now. That is my wish. And it is my birthday. This episode has been a dumpster fire. And that's fine. The next one will be better, I think. Maybe. I don't know. But that, whatever. Anyway, it took me a while to get to my point, but I got there, you know? And I don't think I have anything else that I want to say. I think that is it. That's all the time I have for today. I thank you for hanging out with me on Mother the podcast. If you're vibing with me, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe button on the way out. And until next time, my loves. Also, if you have anything you want me to talk about or would like to share your opinions on this, leave it in the comments below or email me at the email address provided in the description box below. And I will see you all next time. Peace.